Near or far, your neighbor is someone other than you. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 4. Who is your neighbor? Who is our neighbor? Well, neighbors can fall into a lot of categories. And there can be a lot of people who live beside us, behind us, in front of us, or around us. But I tell you what, your neighbor in God's eyes is never going to be you. Before we talk about it, I want to thank you. Please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you always know what's coming up from this ministry. And we also have a website. That website's changeministry.org. And we would love to come to your church, school, or group, whether it's a week of prayer, a spring revival, whatever the case might be. Even if it's one day, it's one day closer to getting to the kingdom. And I pray that we can be a part of it. And if you'd like to have us come, just send us an email. That's contact@changeministry.org. Let's go. Who is your neighbor? We get the question from Luke chapter 10. It says, but he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, who is my neighbor? And Jesus' answer says, a certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And he goes through each of the 3 people that encountered this man who's been left half dead. And he closes by asking, which now of these 3 thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? If you're familiar with the story, the man begrudgingly confessed it, the one who helped him. He didn't even want to say the word Samaritan because he was a Jew. That's where we get the term the Good Samaritan, the one who helped the man on the side of the road. What the key to this study is trying to help and to illustrate is that whoever was a neighbor to that man on the road wasn't a neighbor to himself. Or think of it this way. The Samaritan, the one who was eventually called good. See, that was the problem. The other 2 were thinking about themselves. But the Good Samaritan was thinking about someone outside of himself. It's why when you read 2 Timothy 3, verse 2, we're warned how in the last days men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. How? Why? All because they love themselves. It seemed like a foregone conclusion to say, well, your neighbor is someone other than you. But no, this is why I thank God for the Bible. The solution is easy. In Galatians chapter 5 and verse number 14, instead of loving ourselves, the Lord says, for all the law is fulfilled in one word. Even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the call. The call is to not love ourselves. We all know how to do that. You never have to train a baby how to cry for its own. You never tell a baby to want its mother's attention. Those are things that are naturally into the child who wants to be the center of attention. Instead, God gives us an option. And the option is, let's treat others, our neighbors, like we would treat ourselves. This is why we can know that our neighbor is anybody other than us. And if we ever want to think, what is it that they're looking for? What do they desire? What do they need? It's just like what we would want for ourselves.